Om Swastiastu, perkenalkan nama saya Kadek Yoga Vidya Pratnyadita, NIM 069. Di sini saya akan menjelaskan pasif materi yang kedua. Pertama, form of the passive. Di sini mempunyai bentuk kalimat be plus past participle. Past participle itu sebuah kata kerja yang menggunakan kata kerja yang ketiga. Ya, di sini contoh kalimatnya. Corn is grown by farmers. Be-nya itu bisa menggunakan I'm, it's, are, was, were, has been, have been, will be, dan lain-lain, atau each other. Habis itu yang kedua, Sarah was. Was-nya ini termasuk be dan surprised. Itu menggunakan kata kerja ketiga seperti grown by the news. Yang pertama itu artinya jagung itu ditumbuhkan oleh farmers atau petani. Di bawahnya itu ada kalimat aktif menjadi kalimat pasif. Ini ada perbedaannya. Contohnya petani itu menumbuhkan jagung. Berbeda dengan jagung itu ditumbuhkan oleh petani. Kalimat aktifnya itu petani menumbuhkan jagung, dan pasifnya jagung ditumbuhkan petani. Oke, yang kedua, transitive and intransitive verbs. Transitive mempunyai habis verbnya itu ada objek. Kalau intransitif tidak diikuti oleh objek. Verbnya itu tidak diikuti oleh objek. Ya, contohnya kan students study books. Di sini ada books-nya. Yang intransitif student study. Kalimat dari transitif itu boleh diubah jadi aktif ke pasif. Kalau intransitif itu tidak, kalimatnya itu selalu aktif. Tidak bisa diubah ke transitif. Ke pasif. Oke, sekian dari saya. Terima kasih.
Hello everyone, my name is Gary with number 39. In this part of the video, I will explain about using the by phrase and the passive forms of the present and past progressive. First, let's take a look at using the by phrase. The by phrase is used in passive sentence when it is important to know who performs an action. For example, number 1, this book was made by Kenny. Number 2, that letter was written by Barbara. In this case, Kenny and Barbara are important informations. Usually, there is no by phrase in a passive sentence. The passive is used when it is not known or not important to know exactly who performs an action. For example, number 1, my bike was made in Indonesia. Number 2, rice is grown in many countries. In this case, the exact person who made the bike is not known and is not important to know. So there is no by phrase in the sentence. Now, let's take a look at the exercises. Number 1, Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. The passive form of the sentence is the telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell. Number 2, Charles Darwin wrote The Origin of Species. The passive form of this sentence is The Origin of Species was written by Charles Darwin. Now, let's talk about the passive forms of the present and past progressive. The passive form of the present progressive is subject plus is mr plus being plus past participle. For example, number 1, some letters are being copied by the secretary. Number 2, a new bank is being built. The passive form of the past progressive is subject plus was, were plus being plus past participle. For example, number 1, some letters were being copied by the secretary. Number 2, a new bank was being built. Let's take a look at the exercises. Number 1, someone is building a new house on Elm Street. The passive form of the sentence is a new house is being built on Elm Street. Number 2, Rika was writing a letter. The passive form of the sentence is a letter was being written by Rika. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Saya ikut Teguh Wibawa Lesmana Putra dengan NIM 084 akan menjelaskan tentang pasif modal auxiliaries. Di sini, modal itu sendiri memiliki pengertian yaitu jenis kata kerja yang digunakan untuk mengekspresikan kemampuan, kemungkinan, izin, atau kewajiban. Untuk contoh katanya will, can, should, ought to, must, has to, may, might, could. Nah, untuk bentuk pasif sendiri memiliki form yaitu modal plus be plus past participle atau verb 3. Untuk bisa kita lihat dari contohnya, di sini yang pertama Bob will mail it, itu untuk yang aktifnya. Tapi untuk pasifnya, it will be mailed by Bob. Contoh yang nomor 2, Bob can mail it. Untuk contoh pasifnya, it can be mailed by Bob, dan seterusnya. Selanjutnya saya akan menjelaskan menggunakan past participle sebagai adjektif. Sebelumnya, be dapat diikuti dengan adjektif. Di sini itu mendeskripsikan atau memberi informasi tentang subjek kalimat. Bisa kita lihat dari contohnya. Paul is young. Nah, di sini is itu lebih, adjektifnya itu young. Paul is tall. Gitu. Selanjutnya, be dapat diikuti oleh past participle dan menjadi bentuknya pasif. Seringkali seperti kata sifat yang menjelaskan memberi informasi tentang subjek kalimat. Untuk contohnya bisa dilihat Paul is married. Nah, di sini past participle-nya itu married dan is itu be. Nah, di sini seringkali verb 3 atau past participle dalam mengekspresikannya itu diikuti oleh preposisi tertentu plus object. Bisa dilihat Paul is married to Susan. Married di sini diikuti oleh to dan plus object itu Susan. Paul was excited about the game. Excited diikuti oleh about plus objectnya itu the game. Paul will be prepared for the exam. Prepared di sini oleh for dan diikuti oleh objek yaitu exam. Di sini ada contoh kata ekspresi yang bentuk umum dari ekspresi yang sering digunakan, bisa dilihat sendiri. Sekian penjelasan dari saya, terima kasih.
Hello, my name is Lugede Tresnadewi, NIM 004. I would like to talk about participle adjective ed versus ing and get plus adjective get plus participle. Participle adjective ed versus ing. Lot of English adjectives are made by adding ed or ing to a verb. For example, interest. The verb interest can become an adjective by adding ed or ing. If we adding ed, the verb interest become interested, and if we add ing, the verb interest will become interested. But you need to know how to use each of these type of adjectives. An adjective that ends in ing is used to describe the characteristic of a person, a thing, or a situation. Adjectives that end in ed are used to describe an emotion or a feeling. For example, I am interested in Indian art. Indian art is interesting. In A, interested describe a feeling. In B, it's describe the cause of the feeling. Another example is Kate was surprised. Surprise describe how Kate felt. Next, I would like to talk about get plus adjective and get plus past participle. Get plus adjective. Get can be followed by an adjective. Get gives the idea of change or the idea of becoming, beginning to be or growing to be. For example, I'm getting hungry. Let's eat. I'm getting hungry means I wasn't hungry before, but now I'm beginning to be hungry. Another example is Eric got nervous before the job interview. And sometimes get can be followed by a past participle. The past participle after get is like an adjective. For example, I'm getting tired. Let's stop working. I'm getting tired means I wasn't tired before, but now I'm beginning to be tired. Another example is Steve and Rita got married last month.
Okay, my name is Andi Rama Fadila and ID number is 009. So I will explain about using be used or accustomed to and get used or accustomed to, and I will explain about used to versus be used to. Okay, I will explain using be used or accustomed to and get used or accustomed to first. We can see in sentence A is I am used to hot weather, and sentence B I am accustomed to hot weather. So actually, sentence A and B is have same meaning. The meaning is living in a hot climate is usual and normal for me. I'm familiar with what it is like to live in a hot climate. Hot weather isn't strange or different to me. Okay, we can see in sentence C, I am used to living in a hot climate. And sentence D is, I am accustomed to living in a hot climate. We can see the difference of sentence A, B, and sentence C, D. In sentence C and D, to is followed by the ing form of a verb. So, because life is a verb, and because previously there was to as a preposition, so life becomes living with the ing, and the sentence result is I am used to living in a hot climate and I am accustomed to living in a hot climate. Okay, next in sentence E, I just moved from Florida to Siberia. I have never lived in a cold climate before, but I am getting used to or accustomed to the cold weather here. Okay, in sentence E, I'm getting used to or accustomed to can be used if something is beginning to seem usual and normal to me, because I hear for the first time live in a cold climate, so we can use I'm getting used to or accustomed to in sentence E. Okay, next about used to versus be used to. In sentence A is I used to live in Chicago, but now I live in Tokyo. Incorrect if the sentence is I used to living in Chicago or I am used to live in a big city. We can see the explain is in sentence A used to express the habitual pace. It is followed by the simple form of a verb. Okay, we can to make it easier we can say here used to can be used if the event is in the past, because in sentence A said I used to live in Chicago, but now I live in Tokyo. So we can say I here before live in Chicago, but now he or she live in Tokyo. So he can her or we can use to in sentence A. Okay, next in sentence B, I'm used to living in a big city. In sentence B, be used to is followed by the ing form of a verb. So if we if the sentence have to be, am, or is, we can use be used to, and the verb is followed by the ing. And the example in sentence B, I am used to living in a big city. So if the sentence have to be, so the verb is followed by the ing. Be used to is followed by the ing form of a verb.
Hi, in this presentation, I'm going to talk about using be supposed to and then give you some exercises later on. So let's start. Be supposed to is used to talk about an activity or event that is expected to occur. For example, we are supposed to submit the assignment by Sunday this week. This represents the idea that the teacher expects us to submit our assignment before the aforementioned time. In the past form, be supposed to often expresses the idea that an expected event did not occur. For example, Jessica was supposed to be home at 10, but she didn't get in until midnight. This sentence represents the idea that someone expected Jessica to be home at 10, but you can see the contradiction in the sentence above. Now we have exercise. Feel free to pause the video if you want to participate in this exercise. Number 1, about form of the passive. First, we have to find out which one is the subject, verb, and object in the sentence. And then we can finally make the passive form by exchanging the subject and object and convert the verb to its passive form. So the answer is the work will be done by Mrs. Adams. Number 2, about transitive and intransitive verbs. So here we have invent as the verb, followed by the gunpowder as the object, which means that the verb is transitive and it has the passive form. And that passive form was gunpowder invented by the Koreans. Number 3, about using the by phrase. So here we have the sentence, because the subject is someone unknown, it's not necessary to use the by phrase. So the passive form is, when was the first computer invented? Number 4, about the passive form of present and past progressive. So here we have the sentence with organizing as the verb, and its passive form is organized. But because this is present progressive, we have to add be plus being before the passive form. So the answer is being organized. Number 5, about passive modal auxiliaries. So the modal in the sentence is cannot and the verb is control. To change the sentence into the passive, we just have to keep the modal and change the verb into its passive form. So the answer is the weather cannot be controlled. Number 6, about using past participles as adjectives or stative passive. The verb in the bracket is interest, and we just have to find the verb 3, which is interested, and it's always followed by preposition in. So the answer is Jane is interested in ecology. Number 7, about participial adjectives, at versus in. The second sentence describes how Emily feels. So we have to use the verb that ends with at, which is excited. And the third sentence describes the cause of the feeling. So we have to use the verb that ends with in. which is exciting. And number 8. So here we have to complete the sentences using each word in the box. In the first sentence, the narrator mentions something about going to bed. So the word that would be fitting is sleepy. And that makes the answer for the second question is hurt, as it also makes sense that way. Number 9, about using be used, accustomed to, and get used, accustomed to. Because the narrator's hometown is NYC, it makes sense that he is not used to living in a small town and is used to living in a big city. So the answer would be, I am not used to living in a small town. I am used to living in a big city. Number 10, about used to versus be used to. In the sentence, the narrator talks about having taken the bus to school for the past 3 years, meaning that he still takes the bus to this day and it's not a habitual past. So it makes much more sense if we use be used to. And the answer is, I am used to taking the bus. Number 11, about using be supposed to. To answer this question, we just have to assign something that is expected in the sentence to the subject, plus be supposed to, and see if the rest of the sentence needs some adjustment. And the answer for this question is the plane is supposed to arrive at 9 a.m. So that's all from me for this presentation. Thank you.